Well, here we are, back doing yet another narration, and doing them quite quickly too. So here we have the next episode, Munitions, and I've got a lot to talk about in this episode, so I'm really going to have to get my game on. Well, first off, I want to talk a little bit about the one of the two characters we meet in this episode. No, three characters, and what I want to talk about is the naval tramper Krakatoa, and just like the term harbour switcher, Tugs is perfectly comfortable with making terms up, because naval tramper is a impossibility, and for that I've got to explain what tramper means. Now, Tugs presents this quite simplistic view where liners are associated as being big passenger vessels and trampers are small cargo vessels, but that's not the case. A liner means any ship, passenger or freight, that follows a strict timetable, that has its timetables published in advance, where it's sailing, when it's sailing, what the tariffs are, etc. etc. Trampers are ships which basically go where the work takes them and trade basically on the open market and don't follow a fixed timetable. And basically it's impossible for Krakatoa to be either of these things because it's a Navy ship. It is the USS Krakatoa. She is a supply ship, a tender ship, a ship that carries fuel, resupplies the mail, helps with repairs of other ships. But there's a very involved explanation, and really all the kids need to know is that it's a cargo ship and it belongs to the Navy, so it works. And here we have Blue Nose, and just rubbing noses really badly with Hercules. Many people have extrapolated from this scene that Hercules is ex-Navy, and I'm one of them. So's Ryan and VJ Hedgehog, and you'll be able to see a lot more of this in our collaborative project Stormbringer, which will be coming out sooner or later. And here you get to see just how magnificently large Hercules is compared to the other vessels. OJ, tiring of Blue Nose. I've got a lot to talk about Blue Nose actually, but I want to make one little point. I've always had the theory that Big City Port is located somewhere on America's east coast, somewhere in New England, somewhere between the Canadian border and New York. And if there's any sort of proof or evidence for this, it's the nickname of Blue Nose, because Blue Nose is Canadian slang and it means someone from Nova Scotia, which is an island off Canada's east coast, basically just up the coast from the American border, and I think in close proximity to wherever Big City's located. And here we have the fire tug, often known as Redfin, because of this line of Blue Nose where he yelled, "Oi, you Redfin!" Possibly Redfin or Redfing. Very contemptuous. Blue Nose, it's hard to explain Blue Nose, but I think the basic idea is he's the only naval presence in Big City. Big City doesn't have a big naval base. There's references to being a big naval base up the coast, but there's a smaller presence in Big City, and Blue Nose is the only naval presence, and he's the big fish in the small pond. And he obviously expects everyone to defer to him on any military matter, and obviously the Tugs would rather keep their distance from him. But this is the time of year when it's naval exercises and there's a lot of stuff being moved around. There's a lot of munitions being moved around, fuel supplies, presumably there's lots of big exercises going on off the coast, and it's going to be a rough time for the fleet, not liking to interact with the Navy. A little bit of point here about Top Hat being very standoffish and argumentative, but it doesn't get paid off in this episode. It almost seems to be building up or paying off from the previous episode chronologically, which is High Tide. I think Big Mac got thanked, or will get thanked now in this scene, for winning the steel contract, which of course references to the events where everyone got There we are, reference to the steel contract there, to high tide with the bridge's repairs being finished.
Big Mac, thanks for winning us the steel contract.
Yeah, very rare reference to previous events. And now here we have the Zeds at the munitions factory. There's that logo again, that M logo. Now, there's another point I want to make about this episode, and this is the episode that shows Zoran in the best light. He marshals his fleet with care and caution, makes sure they follow the right procedures, has the flags out. He's proud of his fleet. He wants to make sure the job is done. He wants to win the money for Captain Zero, but at the same time he is not being stupid or reckless, unlike Zack, who's making very crass jokes about blowing people up.
If Blue Nose gives you different orders, ignore him and refer him to me. Just keep
As you see there, he's being extremely competent and cautious. And here we have this lovely ominous music as the two fleets move off, the two ships move off.
Mine, remember that.
And now we have the whole issue about orders, and we're going to come back to it, but
this trip's worth 20 garbage barges, ferry trips or girder tows.
oh, he's bitter about what happened with high tide. No wonder he's being stroppy with Zack and Zebedee, given how much money they must have cost Captain Zero after their little debacle with the bridge. Blue Nose again. Ah, now here's one of those ongoing little mysteries. Star Oil. Does Captain Star have his finger in another pie? Does the barge belong to the Starfleet? I always remember this episode as being a bit special for me because when I was young I had a friend who used to lend me the VHS that had Sunshine and Pirate on it. But this episode, Blue Nose and Regatta / 4th of July were on a VHS I used to borrow from the local VHS shop, and I used to just relish it as something special. My God, he is batshit. And he is not a good military officer. And I'm going to make a point about this, and I guess now's the best time for it. Blue Nose is terrible and should be prosecuted to the fullest extent under every military regulation and the military ethics code of the United States Armed Forces for poor relations with the civilians. And furthermore, his obsession with orders is ridiculous. Now, of course, orders are an important part of military life. You're expected to obey orders. However, the oath sworn by a US officer or a US private is to follow all lawful orders. Military personnel can be prosecuted for not following proper orders, but if they follow unlawful orders or ridiculous orders, then they are accountable. It's the same defence that was used in, say, the Nuremberg trials, where soldiers claim they're only following orders do not get let off the hook.